What kind of animal is that? Do you know what kind of animal this is? Is it a mouse? No. Is it a rabbit? No. Is it a rat? No. It's a hamster. A hamster. Okay, lots of people in North America have hamsters as pets. Okay, I don't, because I don't like having pets inside the house. They're messy and they smell bad. So I don't like, well, hamsters are sort of cute, so I like them, but I wouldn't ever have a hamster as a pet. How about you? Would you have a hamster as a pet? Did you know this word, hamster? Or would you say mouse or rabbit? Okay, I want to give you my number one tip for the CELPIP exam. If you're going to take the CELPIP test, my number one tip for you is to learn more vocabulary. Learn more vocabulary. That's so important. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you some very useful vocabulary, and I'm going to explain to you through some examples why vocabulary is important for each part of the test. Listening, speaking, reading, writing. Okay? So if you like getting tips like this, I would be so happy if you subscribe to my channel right down there. Okay, take a look at this picture. What is this? Okay, let's say this is on the speaking part of the test. Question 8. Talking about an unusual situation. Okay, so the question says you're in a furniture store and you need to call someone and describe this couch to them. Okay, so how would you describe this couch? Which words, which vocabulary would you use? Well, the most important word is, what is it? What kind of animal is this? It's a cow. A cow. Okay, if you don't know the word cow, this question is going to be a disaster. A disaster. There's no other way to describe this picture. If you say, well, it looks like a deer. No, it's not a deer. A buffalo? Nope, it's not a buffalo. Is it a hippo? No, it's not a hippo. There's only one way to describe this, and that is the word cow. Okay, so if you don't know the word cow, this is going to be a nightmare for you. Okay, so how you should describe the picture is you could maybe say, this is a couch that is made up of two cows standing on either side of the couch. So each armrest, okay, this is called an armrest. Each armrest is a cow standing on four legs. Okay, and you could talk about, the color. It's black and white. So we know not all cows are black and white, but a lot of cows are black and white, right? You can talk about their horns, face, legs, whatever. But if you don't get the word cow, it's going to be a disaster. You could use the word couch or sofa. That's okay, either one, couch or sofa. Okay, the seat of the couch, the backrest of the couch, the armrests. Okay, so that's why vocabulary is so important on the speaking part of the exam. Okay, now what about the listening? Is vocabulary important for the listening part? Yes, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so I'm going to read the first sentence of an article. Okay, I want you to listen. You ready? The abortion debate is the ongoing controversy surrounding the moral, legal, and religious status of induced abortion. Okay, that's just the first sentence. Now, what is this reading passage that you're listening to? What is it going to be about? What's it about? It's about abortion. Abortion. Do you know what abortion is? If you don't know this word, the whole question you're just going to be lost. You're going to be lost. You're going to be trying to listen for these different ideas, the main idea, but this is the main idea. This is the main thing the whole listening passage is talking about. So if you don't know this word, it's going to be a disaster. Okay, so that's why vocabulary is really important on the listening part of the test. Now, what about the writing part? What about the writing part of the exam? Is vocabulary important on that part? Yes. Okay, let's say, or no, sorry, not the writing part, the reading part. Okay, this is the reading part where you have to read a passage and then answer questions. Now, on the reading part, there is often very advanced vocabulary. So a lot of people struggle with the reading part. Okay, so take a look at this passage here. The Canada Day Parade is the highlight of the summer for many families. Children love getting candy from the floats as they pass by. Okay, so what is this passage about? Do you know? What is this word here? Parade. This is the most important word in the passage because this tells you what is going to talk about. What is this piece of writing going to talk about? You probably don't know that word either. Floats. What's a float? Okay, well, float here is a secondary word. The main word is parade. Okay, but you need to know these words if you're going to understand what the situation is. What is the scene about? Okay, this is a parade here. A parade is basically like a festival on the street, and the parade moves along. Okay, and everybody comes to watch the parade. They stand or sit on the side of the road and they watch the parade as it goes by. Okay, there might be people playing music, there might be people waving flags or driving some interesting vehicles, or it could be anything. Okay, like if it's a military parade like they have in China or Russia, then it's all about the military. There's going to be people marching. There's going to be a display of all the huge military equipment, rocket launchers, tanks, all this crazy stuff, right? In Canada, we don't have military parades. In the US, they don't have military parades, but in China, if you look at the military parades, you can see all the huge missiles driving by. Might be kind of scary. Okay, so that's what a parade is. So the passage was talking about the Canada Day Parade. So Canada Day is on July 1st, and every city has a parade where, people, there's so many things in a parade. A parade lasts for, I don't know, maybe about half an hour or an hour, okay? And the kids love getting candy at a parade. So this is called a float, okay? This fancy vehicle is a float. It's basically a decorated vehicle that drives, and there are people on the float, and usually the people on the float throw candy to the children as they pass by. Okay, so the kids love getting candy at parades. So this is a float and parade. You need to know the words float and parade if you're going to answer that question, right? That's so important. If you don't know those words, you're just going to be lost. Okay, because there's no pictures, right? When you're reading the passage, you don't get a picture of an animal or a picture of a scene. You have to just know it. So parade, if you don't know parade, like I said, you're going to be lost. Okay, so what about in the writing part? Is vocabulary important in the writing part of the test? Yes. Okay, look at this situation here. You recently got food poisoning. Food poisoning, that means when you get sick from eating something. Okay, so you recently got food poisoning from a restaurant you ate at. Write a letter to the staff complaining about their lasagna. Okay, so this is your writing task. You have to write 150 to 200 words complaining about getting food poisoning at this restaurant and you ate lasagna. You ate lasagna at the restaurant. Now, what is lasagna? If you don't know what lasagna is, you're going to be lost. I mean, what are you going to write? Like, are you going to complain about the lasagna being too cold or too hot? Overcooked, undercooked? Is lasagna a fruit? Is it a vegetable? Is it a meat? What is it? Okay, if you don't know what it is, you don't know how to complain about it. Well, lasagna is this. Okay, this is lasagna here. It's a very delicious food. It's a very popular Canadian food. It's not really Canadian, it's Italian, but there really is no real Canadian food because Canada is a country of immigrants, right? So anyway, so this is lasagna. So why would you get sick from eating lasagna? What is in lasagna? Well, lasagna is noodles, cheese, and ground beef. Ground beef. So what would make you sick? Maybe the ground beef was undercooked. Okay, if it was undercooked, then you probably will get food poisoning. Okay, so lasagna is meant to be served hot. If you go to a restaurant and order lasagna, it's going to be hot. If it's not hot, you could complain about it being too cold. You could say the beef wasn't cooked thoroughly, or you could say I don't know, maybe the cheese was too hard. You couldn't eat it. The noodles were too crunchy. You couldn't really eat it. Lasagna is meant to be a soft food. Okay, the noodles are supposed to be soft. The cheese is supposed to be sort of soft. The beef is supposed to be soft. So maybe it's too hard. Maybe it's too cold. Okay, so if you don't even know what lasagna is, you don't know how to describe it. Okay, so that's a big problem. That's why vocabulary is really important. It's important to learn vocabulary that you're going to use in Canada. Look, the CELPIP test is a Canadian test. It's not American. You're not going to see anything about the US politics, or you're not going to see anything about like Australian culture. Everything is going to be Canadian. Okay, so the more you know about Canadian food, Canadian geography, Canadian culture, okay, Canadian animals, the better you're going to do on the test. Look, when people come from India, they don't eat Canadian food. They eat Indian food. When people come from China, they don't eat Canadian food, they eat Chinese food. When people come from Korea, they don't eat Canadian food, they eat Korean food. Okay, so I think one very easy thing you can do to improve your test scores is start doing some Canadian things. Go to a Canadian restaurant. I know people, Chinese people, Indian people, who have lived in Canada for like 10, 15 years, and they have never been to a Canadian restaurant. Never! Can you believe that? Okay, so if they would go to a Canadian restaurant and look at the menu, they would be lost. Okay, I think that's probably the same for you. So go to a Canadian restaurant and look at a menu. Do you understand what the menu says? I bet you're going to see dozens of words that you don't know. So many new words, like maybe cordon bleu. Do you know what cordon bleu is? What about calzone? What's a calzone? Sautéed shrimp. What does sautéed mean? Do you know these words? So go to a restaurant, look at a menu, and take some notes. What is it? Maybe order some strange foods that you don't know what it means, just so you can see what the food looks like, you can taste it, you can experience it. Okay, that will help you. Those small things will help you on the CELPIP test. Remember, it's a Canadian test. It's not a Chinese test. It's not an Indian test. Canadian. Okay, so for the rest of this lesson, I just want to look at some Canadian vocabulary that all native English speakers would know instantly what these words are. But I want to test you. Do you know what these words are? So what is this? Do you know what this animal is? It's a moose. Okay, everybody would know it's a moose. They don't even have to think about it. Did you have to think about it? What about this? What kind of vehicle is this? It's a combine. A combine. I think most native English speaking Canadians would instantly know the name of this vehicle. Combine. It's not a tractor. Okay, if you describe it as a tractor, that's wrong. You're going to lose marks. It's a combine. What about this crop? Look at this. If you come to Canada in the summer and you drive across Canada, you're going to see thousands and thousands of fields that are this bright yellow color. What is this? It's called canola. Canola. Okay, if it's a blue, if the crop is like a nice blue color, then it's flax. That's flax, but this is canola. Okay, so what is this? Okay, look, there's a road, there's a street coming from there, and then it just ends. It's like a circle. Okay, there's a house there, there's a house here, there's a house here, here, and here. What is this called? Do you know what this is called? This is a very common thing in Canada. It's called a cul-de-sac. A cul-de-sac. Okay? It's very possible that you could see a word like this on the CELPIP test. Okay, maybe it would talk about a family living in a cul-de-sac. Okay, kids playing street hockey in the cul-de-sac. Okay, it's very possible. So did you know what this word means? Or had you ever seen this word before? It's a very common word, cul-de-sac. Okay, what about this? What are these called? Do you know? They're called the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights. Have you ever seen the Northern Lights? They're really beautiful. I have seen the Northern Lights here in Calgary, and they are just gorgeous. Okay, it's very possible that on the CELPIP test, you're going to have a question about the Northern Lights. Okay, from my students, when they've taken the CELPIP test, they usually talk about some animal or something to do in nature. There's going to be a question probably about something to do with nature. So the more you know, the more vocabulary you know about animals or about nature, things in nature, the higher chance you'll have of doing good on the exam. Okay, so that's my biggest tip for the CELPIP. Just improve your vocabulary. Look, I think the best way if you want to improve your vocabulary is to watch my vocabulary series on YouTube. I have a whole series of vocabulary videos, and the link is right down there below this video. There's, I think, maybe 100 or 200 lessons on vocabulary, and I'm always adding more and more vocabulary lessons because vocabulary is so important. Like I said, if you don't know one word, you're going to be lost. So many of my students who have taken the CELPIP, they say, there was a question, I didn't know one word, and I was lost. The whole passage, I was just lost. So if you can learn vocabulary, that's really going to help you not get lost, which would be great. Okay, so let's do some homework. Look at this picture. What are these people doing? Every native English-speaking Canadian would know what these people are doing. Do you know what they're doing? I want you to tell me what they're doing and what they're building. What are they building? What is that thing called? Okay, let me know down there in the comments, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.